Hi there, welcome to video number 13, looking at the black square King Air. This one is going to be the beginning of a test flight. I'm going to break it into two parts. One will be looking at the sort of pre-flight checklist and the startup procedure and checking that all my systems work. And then the second one will be the test flight actually in the air, and again testing other systems to make sure that everything that I programmed works. There's a few things I already found that didn't work or haven't worked as well as I hoped, so there's a couple of loose ends to tighten up. I'll get to the first one of those. If I get into the cockpit, you can see where we're going with this. The first problem I had was the auto feather here didn't work. It armed it perfectly well, but the test was doing some really strange things. So I have rewritten the script for that. So if I get into that and show you what I've rewritten here, on this button here, it's I think it always was an event, but it's calling different scripts now. So we've got the normal press buttons script and a long press. One is to make the switch go up, and the other one is to make the switch go down. Now, in the original Microsoft aircrafts, this was really a two-position switch. It was off and armed, and it's Black Square that have managed to make it a three-position switch, and that's what we have to deal with. And let's have a look at the scripts that we're using here. So if we bring up my scripts editor, I'll just show you the two scripts that I've now got working. Well, I think they're working. We'll find out when we come to do the test. So this is the up version. If I leave that on the screen for a bit, if you need to pause to make a note of what's going on here. But we're dealing with the legacy Microsoft setting of whether the auto feathers is armed or not. And we're also dealing with the additions that have been made by Black Square using this variable, whether it's in auto feather mode or not, and this one here where we're going to be switching on a particular circuit, and we're trying to get those in sync properly, and I think they got out of sync on my previous scripts. So that's the up version, and here's the down version when it moves down, again dealing with the legacy Microsoft version, and then what we need to do to make the switches correct when we go into test mode. So we're turning on the test mode and adjusting the circuit setting. So I think I've got that working, and we'll sort of test that out when we get into the demonstration in a bit. I think that's the major rewrite that I've done. There's a couple of things I found that don't work particularly well, and if I just get out of the script for a minute and show you where I am with this. It's to do with the generators. They've got an off, an on, and the reset at the top. And normally the reset is sort of spring loaded, so that as you move it up, it just clicks, does the reset, and then lets go. But we need to hold it in the up position when we come to check the voltages and make sure the generators are working properly using the gauge up here. So let's reset our view here. That's better. Okay, so I can't find any way of doing that with a key press on my Stream Deck, so you actually have to hold it using the mouse button and hold that down. But I think other than that, I'm pretty sure most of it is working. Now I'm going to go through the official checklist. There's one checklist of the sort of pre-flight inspection before starting the engine. I'm not going to go right through that because most of it is just checking that all the switches are working, in the correct start position, external checks, that kind of stuff. But where it does leave us at the end of that checklist is that our condition lever is cut off, props are full forward, and the power lever is in the sort of idle position. That's where that leaves that, and it also leaves the this oxygen supply in the ready mode. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my Stream Deck in a window in the top left hand corner, so that's always on screen, so I don't have to keep remembering to bring that on to so you can see where I am. It's on the pedestal and I'm pressing, oops, let's get that back again. It's on the pedestal and I'm pressing the oxygen ready button, and you should see this move up. And it also asks us to enable the electric trim, which I'm getting from my X-Touch, and the rudder boost. So they'll be switched on as part of the pre-flight checklist. And the very end of that pre-flight checklist is battery on. And we're going to do a battery start for this one. So the battery on, and then on the glare shield we'll be pressing the enunciator test and just making sure that everything lights up, we haven't got any bulbs blown, that sort of thing. So that seems to work fine. Okay, so I'm going to work our way through the checklist. Now I've got a speaking checklist, but I'm not going to use that during the demonstration because I've got quite a short time limit to press and check things, and it doesn't leave me any time to explain before it will abort that checklist. So we're going to do the engine start checklist. I'm going to read that out to you as we go through step by step. So number one is going to be the beacon light on. So that's here, beacon light, that's on. Checking the propeller area is clear. Well, we haven't got much control over that. The guys wander randomly around the ramp, but I can't see any today. So we'll say that's clear. At night time, it expects you, for some reason, I don't know quite why, that we have to manually close the gen ties, but this is daytime, so we can leave those alone. So what we're going to do now is begin with the right starter. So we start by pressing the right ignition starter, and then we will be checking that we're above 12% here. Once that's above 12%, we can introduce the fuel. So let's start that procedure. So we should see things turning over here. We can see that that's above 12%. Introduce the fuel, which is here, and we check that we haven't gone over, I think it's 1090, and that's fine. Checking temperatures and pressures, which are fine here. And once that's above 50%, we turn that starter off, and it should see ignition happen. And that's it, we're now fairly stable. So that's working, and we just check the annunciator, and we've got the low pressure warnings are off. So I'm just going to tick that all off now on my checklist. And now we turn the right generator on and reset it. And then we check up here. We've got a load of around 20%. That's fine. We need to check the annunciator here, and that would have been the right generator, and that's now off. So we can check that off. And we need to check the right generator volts is 28 volts. So again, going up here, and I'm going to use my X-Touch to turn the meter mode to the right generator, and that's about 28 volts. So, yep, that's okay, we can take that off. And we need to check that the battery amps are positive. So we'll go to battery mode with the switch here. and that's still positive. Next step is to start the left engine. So it's the same sort of procedure, but to generate as much electricity as possible using the generator, we put the right condition into high idle, and we now start the left-hand procedure exactly the same as we did before. So we're going to press the left ignition, and when that's at about 12%, we can introduce the fuel. So that's gone to low idle. We're checking that the ITT hasn't gone into anything too high. That's fine. It comes down now. Temperatures, pressures are okay. The ignition can go off now, and we should see the ignition happen. And we have. We can now bring the right hand engine back to idle here. So I'm just going to tick items off on my checklist. Just checking that the annunciator has gone off. It has. You can see that the low pressure warnings will be here. And we can now do the left-hand generator on and reset. The annunciator's gone off, and we can now go and check. We've got load on the left-hand indicator. We've got voltage here. That's 28 volts. And again, we need to check the battery amps, but the battery's probably pretty well charged because we were quite quick on the startup. But we'll go to battery mode. Certainly got the voltage going to it, but the amps in there pretty well zero because we've got a fully charged battery. Next thing to do is to check that our battery tie is normal, and it is. And this is where we now need to hold this into the reset mode and go and check what's going on at on the voltages. So we're now going to hold that up. So that's held. And it's asking us to check that the left gen is at 28 volts. It is. And you can see the load is off. If I let go of the button now, I've let go of the reset button, and the load has gone back to normal. And we'll do the same for the left generator now. We're going to hold that up into reset. And you can see that the left generator, the DC load is 0 on there. We can check the voltage. That's still okay, so we can let go and everything's back to normal. The last thing to do is just to make sure that our annunciators are still working fine. So we'll go back to the glare shield and do the annunciator test. All the lights are working. We expect those still to be on because we haven't done anything with the inverters or the bleed valves. Okay, moving on to the next checklist, which is the before taxi checklist. First one is we're going to check using the fire detector, which is this knob here, and we're looking for these to illuminate. So, okay, this is on my X-Touch. It's nothing to do with my Stream Deck. So I'm going to turn, and I'm checking first of all the fire extinguishers, and they're lighting up, and now I'm going to look at the firewall valves, and they're lighting up, and the annunciator is following properly. So that's checked. Next one is to check the gear handle light. And that's lighting up and going off, so that's working fine. And next is the stall warning test. And I hope you heard that. That's working fine. Now, this is the bit that I can't be sure I've got working properly. We're going to be looking at the gen ties. The problem I've got is that I can't animate them, so I'm hoping that they're working properly. So I need to work through this quite carefully. So it says on my checklist, gen ties open. So I'm going to press the open button, and my gen ties should be illuminated. And I can see those here. Left gen tie open, right gen tie open, so they're illuminated. Now I need to check this the center bus volts matches the battery bus volts, and so let's go and look up there. So that should match the battery volts, and it does. So that's working properly. Okay. So now I need to put my generator ties back to normal. And again, I can't see any animation for this, but I'm pressing the normal button on my Stream Deck. And now my CTR volts should be 28. They are. And now the next bit that I need to check is the bus sense test. So I need to put the bus sense into test mode. Which is here. So I'm holding that down, and that should be in test mode now. So when I press the test mode, my gen tie annunciator should light up, and it has. Now I'm going to do the reset for that. They're extinguished. So that should be fine. Now I need to go and look at the triple feed to see if that's at 28 volts. That's 28 volts. It's actually reached slightly lower. You can read about that in the instructions, why that slightly does come across slightly lower. Next one is opening the bleed valves. So we're looking over here. Looking over here, and I should be doing that with here. So bleed valves both open, and I should see the enunciator lights have gone off with the bleed valve, and I should see over here that we've got pneumatic pressure, which we have. Now I need to turn the temperature mode here to automatic. This is set at a sensible level. The vent blower should be on automatic. So that's on automatic. I don't need electric heater today. And the cabin master should now be on. I should see that I've got some gyro suction over here, and that's in the green, so that's okay. And next thing to check is the AC inverters. So I'm going to turn on the inverters. So I've just turned on one inverter, and I can see that the annunciator light's gone off. I turn off the right one, and that's now off. And what I'll do now is I'll just check here. We've definitely got AC voltages there. Frequency should be 400, that looks fine. And it says check the weather radar is either off or standby. That is. So it wants avionics master on. And it says that the compass should be slaved and aligned, which I think it is. And now we would go ahead and we will be setting our flight instruments and radios, getting those prepared, ready for flight. Checking that we've got control over the yoke, the pedals, so they're fine. Checking any instrument flags, but at the moment that's exactly what we would expect. And then turn on the exterior lights. So I'm going to have my nav lights on for the moment. And the last thing to do is to check my parking brake. So parking brake off, and then check my foot brakes are working. That's fine. So I'm going to turn off the master and warning and caution thereof. Okay, the next checkup is the run up. I'm going to do that here on the apron. It says to check the nose wheel centered. I'm not quite sure where you would look other than outside, but we'll assume that's done. Parking brake is set. So it now wants me to activate the electric trim. So those are the buttons on my yoke. So I'm going to activate that. That's working, and we'll make sure that that is centered. And then it wants me to cycle this, and we're checking for an annunciator on here. So we're going to cycle the electric trim, and there's the annunciator on and off, so that was working. And we're now going to engage the yaw damper. And we can see that that's lit up here, and it also should be illuminated on here, so that's working fine. And now we're again going to cycle the rudder boost and look for an annunciator on here, and that's working correctly. Okay, we're now going to do the autopilot check. So the first one to do is to move the heading bug 30 degrees left. So I'm doing that on the Honeycomb yoke. I've turned it to heading mode, the heading selector, and moving that 30 degrees left. And we're now going to engage the autopilot and put it into heading mode, and we should see the yoke move and the flight director move, which it does. And now I'm going to move the heading bug 30 degrees to the right, and we've got yoke movement, so that's okay. Disengage the autopilot, everything should center. Right, next one is the engine anti-ice actuators. And these should go into standby mode. And the anti-ice on. And it takes a while, but eventually it will then get to the point where we'll get annunciators coming on here. It does take a while for these to get into position. And here they come. So we've got one here, and the other one is hidden just underneath here, but it's hidden by that lever. There it is. So we know we've got the anti-ice working. So anti-ice actuators should go back to main. And in fact, we can probably turn off the engine, the anti-ice now. Okay, it says power levers idle. They are idle. And arm the auto ignition. And we get annunciators for those. Now, advance the power levers above 17% torque. And the annunciator goes off. And now, when I bring it back down, they should come back on again. And they do. And I can turn the auto ignition off now. The next one is the propeller governor test, which is here. And it says hold it to the governor check. So I'm going to hold that button in. And individually, I need to advance each one up to full power, and I should see the propeller limited to 1600. There it is, that's fine. And next one is to do the ground idle stop. So I'm holding that in. I should see my low pitch annunciators lighting up, which they are. And then when I release that, that should go away. And that does work. Now we get to the auto feather. So I'm going to put that, this should go into test mode now. So I've hold this button down. That's in test mode. And the auto feather off, annunciator is gone. Now it says advance the power levers to 25% torque. And I should get these illuminating, which I do. Now if I bring the left power down below 17%, bring the left lever down, the right annunciator should extinguish, and it does. And if I go below 10%, the left one should extinguish, and it does. Bring both up to 25% again. They should both be on. And then we do the same again with the right one. So as I bring this down, the left one should extinguish. Below 10%, the right one does. So that's working as advertised. Just ticking items off on the checklist now that I've been through all that. And I should be able to go through it, feathering and cycling that. And that should work. Getting the indicators working. So now put the auto feather into arm mode. And the next thing to check will be the windshield anti-ice. So he's going to here. What I'm looking for is my load meters to increase when I switch those on. Never sure if I can actually see an increase or a decrease in it, to be honest. So let's put them into high and see what we've got there. So let's go to high, and if I turn them off, they did definitely see them move. Next one is propeller de-ice. What we're looking for here is that this cycles. That certainly has come on, and if you leave it a while, that will go through a cycle. So we can switch that off. That's working. And now we're looking for the surface de-ice, and that's got two modes as well. Again, I can't animate the switch for this one, the surface de-ice. It's got a single mode and it's got a manual mode. How I've got that set at the moment, if I bring in the actual Stream Deck, here's the surface de-ice. It's got two scripts, one for a single and one for the manual de-ice. And what the single one does, it does a cycle for about 10 seconds. The manual one, if I press the manual button, it will run for a maximum of 2 minutes. But when I let go of it, then it will turn the de-ice off. Okay, so let's see if we can see that working. So what we're looking for over here is the pneumatic pressure here. So if I firstly I'll do the single press, and you can see the pneumatic pressure just changes slightly. Now if I hold it down, I should go into manual mode, and that'll go for 2 minutes maximum. But as soon as I let go, it should put it back to normal. So that's working properly, showing the pneumatic pressure changing. Okay, the next thing to do will be looking at the cabin pressurization. So if I go to the pedestal here to look at that going on, what we're going to check is that we have got this in pressure mode, which we have, and we're going to turn the pressure, cabin pressure, down below 1,000 feet below our current. Well, that's basically all the way down because we are at sea level here, and what we should see is the pressure changing here. And so we now need to hold this button into test mode. Test mode here, and you can see here it's definitely descending. So let go of that, put that back to normal, and that's working fine. Right, now next one's to check the bleed valves. If I turn the left bleed valve off, I should still have pneumatic pressure. If I turn the right one off, we lose that pressure. If I turn the left one on, we get pressure back, and turn the right one back on again. So we've definitely got pneumatic pressure working properly there. And we now need to check our flaps. Check the indicators working. That's working fine. We'll check our fuel quantities. And they're both fine. Last check of instruments, no lights that we're not expecting. And last check that the battery is charged. It is. Okay, so that's it. So the next video will go right from the end of the runway. We'll do the before takeoff check, and then we'll go for a flight. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.